Hola, clase. Today I'm going to teach you how to use double object pronouns in Spanish. So now that you know how to use direct and indirect object pronouns in your sentences, I'm going to teach you how to use both of those types of pronouns in the same sentence at the same time. And it's really easy. You only need to do two things. So first, you're going to find the direct object and replace it with the pronoun. And then you'll find the indirect object and replace it with the pronoun. So really, you're doing what you already did in the last two videos. You're just doing both of those things at the same time. Let's work through an example together. So I've got the sentence, Yo cocino frijoles para ti. I cook beans for you. Now, once I've established what I'm cooking beans, frijoles, and who I'm doing it for, ti, so you, I can restate this sentence and I can get rid of my direct and indirect object. Let's go through and find those first. So remember that to find them, we find the verb. So cocino is our verb. I cook what? Is the first question we asked to find our direct object. So we know that frijoles is our direct object. Then if we ask, who do I cook the beans for? We'll find that T is our indirect object. All right. So we found our direct and indirect objects. And we're gonna replace those. So frijoles is going to become los, right? That's the pronoun that we'll use to replace it. And T, we would use te for our indirect object pronoun, right? So when I rewrite the sentence, I'm going to take my indirect object pronoun te first, put it here. Then I'm going to take my direct object pronoun los and put it here. And then I'll put my verb after that, cocino. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my period here. Because remember, we're also going to get rid of the para. It wouldn't make sense to leave the word for in there. There's nothing that would come after it. So it would just be hanging there by itself. So yo te los cocino. And in English, this would be saying, I cook them for you. And then we're just a little bit more concise. We don't have to write out frijoles again, and we don't have to say para ti. We can just say te. After completing that first sentence with me, I hope that you noticed that we will always put the indirect object pronoun before the direct object pronoun. And in order to remember that, I have an acronym for you. It's called the ID rule. And the I stands for indirect object pronoun, and the D stands for direct object pronoun. So you've always got to put the I before the D. You always have to put the I, the indirect object, before the D, the direct object pronoun. So the ID rule will help you remember what order to put your pronouns in. Now that we've looked at the ID rule, let's go ahead and do another example. So, mi amiga compra el taco para mí. Let's look for our direct object first. So my friend buys what? My friend buys the taco. So taco is our direct object. We can ask, who does my friend buy the taco for? And we'll see that me is the person that is indirectly receiving the action of our verb, which is great, right? If our friends buy us tacos, that gives them the best friend status. So we've found our direct object and our indirect object. We're going to replace those, right? So for a direct object, el taco, we would replace it with the pronoun lo. For me, we would replace that. We're just going to get rid of the para too. We would replace me with the indirect object pronoun me. And then we're going to rewrite our sentence. All right, so we're going to start with our subject. And then we are going to remember the ID rule, all right? Which means that we're going to put our indirect object pronoun first. So we're going to put me next. Then we'll put our direct object pronoun lo, and then we'll put our verb after that, all right? In English, we actually put our verb and then we put our pronouns after our verb. So, mi amiga me lo compra. My friend buys it for me. All right, so there's one more rule that I need to teach you, and it's called the lay low rule because you can't lay low in Spanish class. So you cannot have two pronouns in a row that both start with the letter L, right? So you can't have two L's. So you can't have lay low, you can't have lay la, and you can't have lay los. If you end up with that combination with your pronouns, then you need to change the lay to say. So you can see that here and here we change the lay to say, or if it's lace, we change the lace to say. All right. Now you can leave your direct object pronouns alone. So the lo and the la and the los are fine because since we changed the indirect object pronoun lay and lace to say, we've gotten rid of the double L. And so then we're okay to use that in our sentence or in our conversation. So let's go ahead and look at an example where we need to apply the lay low rule. So ella sirve un taco a Mario. She serves a taco to Mario. We find our direct object, which is un taco. We're going to replace it with lo. We find our indirect object, which is Mario. So we're going to get rid of Mario and we're going to replace it with lay. We do need to remember our ID rule as well. So we're going to put the lay first, right? So ella lay. Then we're going to put our direct object next, lo, and then our verb sirve. So ella le lo sirve. But remember, we can't lay low in Spanish. That's our second rule that we need to remember. And so because of that, we change the lay to say. And so then we end up with ella se lo sirve. It's also worth pointing out here that your double object pronoun placement is the same pronoun placement that we learned for our direct and indirect object pronouns in the previous two lessons. So if there's one verb in the sentence, you will place both your double object pronouns in front of that verb. If there are two verbs that are working together in the sentence, then you actually have a choice. You can either put both of your double object pronouns in front of the first verb, or you can attach both of your double object pronouns to the end of the second verb. And we'll look at some examples of that in class. So that's all I have for you guys. Thank you. Adios.